The NCAA announced on January 21st, 2021 that Notre Dame football program had violated NCAA recruiting contact rules. Let's go ahead and get into what the NCAA announced on January 2019. Assistant coach at Notre Dame at the time had impermissible in-person contact with a recruit at a high school in Seattle. This coach is no longer at Notre Dame. The same coach had impermissible text message contact with a class of 2021 recruit during the summer of 2019, which basically means until a recruit's junior year on September 1st, college coaches are not allowed to text with them. And this contact occurred 2 months before that is allowed to take place. And Brian Kelly was at Pickerington Central High School, which is home of Lorenzo Styles, a Notre Dame signee in the 2021 class. Kelly was walking through the halls, and a prospective student athlete asked to take a picture with Kelly. He initially declined, but then did agree to take the picture. So here are the penalties that Notre Dame will be facing because of these violations: 1 year of probation, a $5,000 fine, a 6-month show clause order for the former assistant football coach who was not named, I will add, including a 1-game suspension at any employing member school, reduced football official visits by 1, reduced football unofficial visits by 14 days for the 2020 to 2021 academic calendar, 7-day off-campus recruiting ban. The university did not recruit the prospect. University will not recruit any prospects from this high school for the next couple years. And also, if this is important to note, if an opportunity to serve a penalty will not be available due to circumstances related to COVID-19, the penalty must be served at the next available opportunity. My interpretation of that is, if the dead period extends through the rest of this year, then the violations would then kick into 2022. So that's the penalties and what happened there. We're bringing on Patrick Engel, blueandgold.com beat writer, to get his reaction. You can find his story at blueandgold.com and also have it in the description box of this video. Patrick, talking to sources here, I mean, look, the headline is kind of like, whoa, recruiting violations, especially when you see what happened at Tennessee with them handed out bags of cash. This seems like, we're on edge about recruiting violations, but this is just kind of not a big deal in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't meet the wow factor of the initial headline when you see recruiting violations in Notre Dame. I mean, because that just evokes like, oh no, things are going crazy here. What's happening? Massive penalties. No, none of that is the case in this situation. Ultimately, what they've ruled these as is a level 3 violation. That's the lowest for that photo that Brian Kelly took with a prospective student athlete, and level 2 penalties for the impermissible contacts with the other 2 recruits that the assistant coach had. So yes, ultimately, these are not massive penalties or really massive infractions. It's actually worth noting that earlier in this year, Florida and Texas A&M were given similar penalties and had similar problems at a high school in Seattle as well. So this is much more so you kind of look at it, and when you really digest the whole thing, it's like, what's going on at this one high school up in Seattle here, and not known immediately if this is the same recruit that Notre Dame got in trouble with for seeing as those 2 did. But nonetheless, yes, these are minor things that won't be fireable offenses for Brian Kelly or certainly anything like that, and
right.
Won't be this. Like, I just want to make clear, this is not a bowl ban in and of itself. If you violate probation, things can escalate as far as penalties. But yes, overall, these are navigatable and not too severe problems here.
So basically what you have is a violation of the bump rule, right? I mean, the bump rule is that if you...
That's basically what it is, yes.
Yeah, so you spend too much time with a prospect at his high school, you're allowed to bump into them, but then that's it, like a quick hello, and then... So basically that was, a violation. But that happens literally every day. Multiple schools break that every day out there during normal recruiting contact periods. That's pretty standard. The second one happens a good bit too. I'm not trying to defend Notre Dame that they didn't break the rules, because they did hear this former coach, again, who is no longer with the Fighting Irish, but they're just such small potato kind of things. And it's like, why isn't this even? All three of these things, you could make really strong arguments that, like, I mean, can you really not text a kid? I mean, like, come on. And then the third one with Kelly, I mean, it even says in the report that he didn't want to take the photo, but like, it's such an awkward thing, like, to just be Brian Kelly at Lorenzo Styles High School. Everyone loves you there, and to just not take the picture. They're just all such small things. You have the bump rule. The texting one is just kind of like, yeah, that in my opinion, that's the worst one. Um, but the other two, the Kelly and the photo on the bump rule is just like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like a big deal at all.
No, not a big deal and not uncommon penalties and or things that happen, I should say. But the rules are the rules, and here they are. And I'm not going to sit here and say that these penalties are unfair or anything. Like, what's wrong with the NCAA? Like, no, these are the rules, and they were violated, and this is what it is. And yes, ultimately, these are not things that will massively hamstring recruiting operations or really start to cost Notre Dame on the trail in massive ways or anything like that.
Yeah, looking at the penalties, I mean, none of them, like, which one would, in your opinion, would be the worst? Maybe the probation, just because if something happens again, but
Yes.
otherwise the official visits, you're gonna have one less in a year where you're probably not gonna have many official visits, if any. So that might be towards 2022. So none of these really seem like a big deal. I mean, this high school in Seattle, Notre Dame's not really recruiting much in Seattle anyway. So do you agree that the probation is probably the biggest one?
Yeah, just because it leaves you no margin for error if something happens again or something even minor, then yeah, you open yourself up to more severe consequences.
Yeah, and it should be noted again that the coach is no longer with Notre Dame, and that um, these two infractions from that coach, January of 2019, and then the summer of 2019. So isn't it kind of strange? Also, the timing that these occurred 2 years ago and a year and a half ago, and it's just kind of getting out now.
That's just how these cases usually take. It's a long process, and one of the slower things you'll find is the incident investigation process. So no, I'm not particularly surprised. Like you said, Mike, this is the bump rule, and then as the full case document detailed, the assistant coach saying that he forgot the kid he was texting was a 2021 and not a 2020, which would have made it okay. So
How
again,
does that?
rules are rules, and these are the punishments for them. But yes, it's fairly innocuous things when you read the whole report and kind of see what Notre Dame says happened here.
Yeah, so again, we're in agreement. Not big deals, not big punishments. But I've seen some tweets, Patrick, that people are just like, the NCAA, this is a joke and everything. Well, I mean, that NCAA might be a joke, but in this situation, they have rules. The rules were broken, and I think the punishment, which was small, fit the crime, which was like small, like not big reactions, either way from me.
No, it's the rules are the rules. You can complain about them all you want, but right now they're in place and violations of them are what they are.
All right, so that's the video breaking down this. Again, we'll leave the breaking news story from blueandgold.com in the description of this video, as well as the release from the NCAA document breaking this down.